Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And a Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 568. Mr. Somich.
Joel Rosario still sucks, huzzah!
Oh, no. Did he burn you again?
Oh, he didn't really burn me. Did you watch are you watching Belmont at all? Belmont the Big A? Oh,
no.
My God. Okay, when the show's over, race number 6.
Okay.
He is on a Stone Cold Lone Speed, the 3-horse Silver Skillet.
Already off to a bad start.
He decides that he's going to get cute and try and do one of those, I'm going to brake kind of mid-slow and then like sneak my way up. Well, Pratt just crosses over on him. They go 51 to the half. The horse is ranking. He checks 3 times. Ends up second to last on a 51.5 when he has a Stone Cold Lone Speed. And then the horse actually runs a little, and he ends up 4th in the race, just missed 3rd. Like a full bell curve. Like, what are we doing, man? Just go to the front. You would have gone 49 to the half and won the race for fun, but instead 51 to the half, and he loses. So Joel Rosario.
Swing, tent pole.
The rare Rosario tent pole.
I gotta say though, I think we were like 3 years early on the Rosario's not a good jockey bandwagon, because now like I post like, wow, what a bell curve ride, and everyone's like, well, of course it's Joel Rosario. I'm like, you can't even say it. You can't even say it. You're too late to this. We've been talking about this for 3+ years that the guy's not good, and that was one of the worst rides I've seen in a very long time on Silver Skillet.
When he's on his game, I think he still is he's up there in the, I won't say the uber elite, but I'd say he's like that A- crowd when he's on his game. But then you get those rides like you're talking about, and you just go, man. Farbridge on the lead. I mean, Farbridge has never been on the lead before, and it goes gate to wire and wins a major stakes race. So it's, you get both ends of the bell curve there.
If my horse is shorter than 10 to 1 and my trainer decides to put Joel Rosario on it, I'm firing the trainer. It's just that simple. Like it's just, especially if it's a speed horse on the turf, you're just gone. You're fired, trainer. Like just bad decision.
Yeah. Closers. Sure.
Fine. I mean, not fine, but fine. Like at least I can understand what you're going for there. But man, whoa, what a bell curve ride, man. It was impressive. You got to watch this ride. It's hilarious.
Well, the good news for you is that I don't think we're going to be done talking about Joel Rosario, are we? Because even though we're not covering Belmont at the Big A on Saturday, he isn't. He's going to stay at Belmont at the Big A.
Yeah.
Because Farbridge is running.
You better not tell me that I didn't see his name anywhere here, which means I didn't pick him, which is nice at least. But man, yeah, I might have just ended the stream now.
So good news for you. Big Invasion is here.
Yeah.
Flavian Pratt's going to ride instead of Rosario.
What do you think? What do you think Big Invasion's career would have been like without Joel Rosario?
I mean, it's pretty damn good with him.
Well, is it?
Does he win the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint over our friend No Balls?
Probably. I mean, like if you look at this year with Rosario, he's got a 4th and 2/10. Are we sure that Rosario made a difference on him?
That's a good point. I still love you, Joel, even though I love you as a person. You as my jockey, we'll talk. But you as a person, I still love you. You know what I love? Santa Anita's back. Starting Friday, we're kicking off a month-long fall meet, and it's going to be jam-packed action this weekend with the California Crown, and then we have the Zenyatta Stakes on Sunday. There's another race that I'm forgetting, but there's 2 big races on Sunday, and then next weekend, the first weekend in October, we get the 2-year-old stakes races. So the American Pharaoh, the race formerly known as the Chandelier, now called the Oak Leaf for some dumb reason. And then on Sunday, the first week in October, we get the Zuma Beach Stakes and the Surfer Girl. So lots of great action as we're getting ready. Final Breeders' Cup preparations. We have 2 Breeders' Cup winning year in races that we're talking about on this card. Are you excited?
I am excited. I am interested to talk about the 9th. The Grade 1 California Crown, I think, is a wildly interesting race just because of who you ended up having sign up. You've got just 3 Baffords. You've got our buddy Senor Buscador is back there. That race to me was the most interesting race of the sequence.
I really like what First is trying to do with this weekend where they boost the purses. So $750,000 purses for a pair of turf races and then $1 million for the California Crown itself. A lot of people, myself included, thought that first was probably going to wind down on Santa Anita, and it always seems like it's possibly going to be up for sale or turned into development because how valuable the land is. When they turn around and put $2.5 million into this weekend, like that's saying something. That's their money they're doing with.
It is, and I appreciate that they're trying to match what New York has done, because New York did a very similar thing and has gotten European horses on the turf because of the increased purses in some of those graded stakes that they've had specifically for 3-year-olds. I have a couple notes about them trying to run a $6,000 tournament over during this set, because they're not getting any type of. It'll be interesting. They're saying they're going to get 200. I'd be surprised if they get 100. So it'll be interesting to see how that actually plays out for them. But I love the fact that they're trying to put together marquee days like this in the fall, because we need more marquee days like this in the fall leading up toward Breeders' Cup.
And smart to do it now when it's still September, because Keeneland is around the corner, and when Keeneland comes to town, everybody else is just their numbers go down, as they should. But we've got we're not doing a late pick 5. We'll see how many times I accidentally say late pick 5, but it's actually the all stakes pick 5 for California Crown Day on Saturday, September 28th. And what that means, 15% takeout. Awesome. $1 minimum. Ooh, spicy.
Love it.
And the entire pool is going to get paid out at the end of the day. So lots of reasons to like this. I don't think there's a risk of a carryover. If there would be a carryover possibility, I don't see. It's chalky enough that I think if somebody's going to hit this, even if you get 1 or 2 bombs.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're going to get just a completely uncappable 20-1 shot or something like that. And even if that happens, the other race is probably going to be, you can be short enough that you can be singling in certain places. And if you catch the right all, then you get the horse. So I'd be surprised if the whole pool doesn't pay out. But the 15% and the $1 minimum make it worth playing, just because of those two things. The $1 minimum limits people on spreading. You're not going to see us going 5-6 deep in any of these races because of it. Mm-hmm. And then it also, it creates a situation with a 15% takeout where you're playing against a lower takeout than the late pick 5 there at Santa Anita as well.
Yeah, the deepest I went in the leg was 4, and I think the deepest you went was 3 deep in a spot. Yeah, yep. So yeah, but we'll have lots of good conversation. Let's get into it. The all stakes pick 5 on California Crown Day at Santa Anita Park. Riders up. All right, first leg of the California Crown All Stakes Pick 5, Saturday, September 28th. Race 5, it's the Unzip Me Stakes for 12 3-year-old fillies going 6.5 furlongs down the hillside turf course. Take note that the 2 and the 5 are both early scratches. That means the 13 and 14 are both going to draw in. And if it wasn't for the post, the 13 Wrigleyville, awfully interesting coming in from Saratoga. But where'd you go on top?
Yeah, that Wrigleyville was the one where it's like, oh, maybe a little bit of interest. Not going to end up making the ticket, though. I'm only going to go 2 deep here. Give me the 1 horse, Dreamfire, here on top. This is a horse that had some pretty good races early. Broke the maiden in a stakes race, then jumps into a grade 3, wins that over the dirt, jumps into the grade 3 Surfer Girl. Gutty win there over Buttercream Babe, and then jumps up to the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf there, or filly turf there, and sets the early pace, but just cannot keep it going. And ends up falling apart. Ended up running 9th there. Was 36-1 in that spot. I like this downhill debut here for Dreamfire in the 3-year-old season. It's an aggressive one, but the workout last time out was strong, 47-4 out of a gate. So you know that you're going to see early speed from Dreamfire, and this race doesn't possess a ton of early speed. So I think Barrios sends Dreamfire right to the lead, and we'll play a little bit of catch me if you can here. And I don't know where the pressure really comes from. That to me was the big thing. There's a couple horses that want to go, but most of them doing it longer, not coming out of sprint races and going. I guess you could say Golden Canary is going to have some early speed as well, maybe Troopy, but it feels like Dreamfire is the fastest early. So I'll put Dreamfire on top here, taking him gate to wire.
Boy, I went back and forth about Dreamfire. I didn't use her, but she is intriguing. Because of what you mentioned there. She was so fast as a 2-year-old. I wish there was a race here that you could see. I mean, we haven't seen her since November 3rd, so it's been almost 11 months since she last raced. And it's also worth knowing the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf race, she drew post 13 of 14. So she had to go from all the way outside, cut over, set the pace on the inside, and weaken. Some really good fillies that she lost to. I didn't use her, like I said, but she is I'm nervous about her. If she's ready off the layoff, she's going to be ultra tough because of that speed angle that you mentioned. We agreed on one horse, and it's my top pick. It's the 6 Zona Verde. Class of the field to me, other than maybe Dreamfire, but she's cutting back, looking for her first win on the Santa Anita turf, which is kind of funny. She's very talented. She's yet to win at Santa Anita on the grass, 0 for 5 with 2 seconds. But the buyers are trending up as we get to the end of this 3-year-old campaign. She's running third off the layoff, and she fired a 46-2 bullet best of 43 on the synthetic training track, getting ready for this. Like she seems like she's ready to go. I like her on the cutback here. She doesn't have that early speed that you like to see, especially if you look at the 2 races she's had going down the hill, the Angel Flight, the Sweet Life Stakes. She tends to lag a bit behind, but I think that she's in much better form right now than she ever has been in her career, and I'm hoping that pushes her forward.
Yeah, the form is solid, and one of the reasons I use the 6 as well. I'm actually surprised the 6 isn't the favorite. Troopy here, the 11, the morning line favorite. I handicapped this without morning line odds, so I'm seeing them for the first time here. I was hoping Dreamfire would actually be a little higher than 4-1, but I'm not overly shocked about it. I thought Zona Verde would be the favorite here. The last 2 races against Ice Cream, U-Scream, who, I mean, I love that horse. We've talked about that horse quite a bit on here. She is really, really good. And that race 2 back, I thought was a very good second against her after she set, I'm not going to say a slow pace, but they went 47-2 to the half. The 22-3 kind of makes you like think about it a little bit more. Jumps up in the grade 1 Del Mar Oaks, ends up running third to Ice Cream, U-Scream that day. That was probably a little too far for her. I think that this 6.5 furlong distance is not one that, we've seen D'Amato be scared of putting her in. It's going to be her third time down the hill. The 2 races, she ran 2nd and 6th in those 2 spots. I think she's better than what she was when she was running in those days. The biggest concern for me, she doesn't win all that often. That to me is the big issue here. One, broke her maiden when she debuted here in North America, then came back and won the Jimmy Durante over the Del Mar course, going gate to wire in that spot 2 races later. Has not won since, but has never finished worse than 6th, consistently hit the board 2nd or 3rd. So she's been running good efforts, just not being able to get the job done. I do like her quite a bit here, considering where she should be able to come down or be able to break and sit. I think she sits closer than she did those days. I think we saw enough speed, especially facing Ice Cream, U-Scream 2 back, where she was only a couple lengths off her. That Zona Verde has a little bit more early turn of foot. I love the fact that Hernandez stays aboard for D'Amato as well. So I'm going to try and get through this one just going 1 and 6.
I ended up using the 11 Tupi, the shipper in for Grand Motion, who is a 5-2 favorite. You and I are both seeing the odds for the first time at the same time here. But she's getting Flavian Pratt aboard. There's reason number 1. She's got really good tactical speed. She can be forwardly placed, but she's not really a need the lead type. She went gate to wire to break her maiden, and that was at 2 on the dirt. And ever since then, actually hasn't been the leader early on in any of those other races. She actually would try to get into a race at Kentucky Downs. Was it the Music City Stakes? It was one of those big $1 million plus races, a grade 2 event. She wasn't also eligible. She didn't draw in. So she's going to make it into the field here. Grand Motion had said that, yes, she was winning at 5.5 furlongs, but he thinks that her best distance is 6 to 7. You look back last November, the Stuart Manor Stakes, she won that at 6 furlongs. And she's another one that the buyer's trending in the right direction. She's bringing in some good class, having been at Saratoga. She was at Churchill Downs. You look at that race, the Mamzelle Stakes. Twirling Queen, the winner, wins next out. Tupi, 2nd place, wins next out. Claude Walker, 3rd, wins next out. Nicest Pie didn't have a good break at all, but she's a multiple stakes winner. She just missed winning the Penn Oak Stakes. So the top 4 finishers, all very, very talented in that Mamzelle Stakes. And I'm trusting in Grand Motion. I'm trusting in Flavian Pratt. And those are 2 people that I feel very confident trusting in.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you said there. I'm wondering if the post is going to be a problem for her, because she's one of those that wants to be a little more forwardly placed, and coming out of the 9 post now with the 2 scratches inside makes it a little bit better. Also, not a complete death sentence on this downhill course, like it is when you're going around the 1 turn when you're sprinting at Santa Anita. So a little bit of positives for both of those there. Happy I didn't use her at the price though. I don't think she should be the favorite in this spot. To me, there's a few too many questions on her. Yes, the race 3 back at Churchill was good, but that Churchill turf course, who the hell knows? Like how any horses are going to be able to come from off of that race. And then the win at Laurel, I thought was probably her best effort, but there wasn't that much in that field. She came back and faced a little bit better field at Saratoga, got beat pretty easily in that spot. So I'm interested to see what you get from her, but at 5-2, she's not one I'm interested in putting on the ticket.
Rags is bringing up Antiphona. She did win the Sweet Life Stakes actually by 2 lengths and went last to first, basically last to first to get the job done. Zona Verde was second. Alluring was third. So has faced these common foes and beaten them before. She's coming off of a win at Del Mar where it was going a mile. She got her career best buyer of 82. Mike Smith was aboard, and she gets claimed for $80,000 out of that race. And Mike Smith rides through the barn change. I think if you're looking for a long shot, I think Rags is on the right move here. It wasn't for me, but I see what I can see how this horse ends up springing the upset here.
Yeah, there's definitely some things to like, especially at the price of 10-1 as well, because like you said, riding through the claim, I think is interesting. And claim for 80K, not something that happens all that often, especially at the Del Mar meet for a horse that, yeah, it's 3 years old. So younger horse as well. A little concerned that Sadler and Ronis Racing decided this one wasn't worth continuing with, and did so after the layoff, right? Because they bring this horse back in July, runs in the Daisy Cutter, doesn't run well, and then they're like, okay, well, if we lose her, we lose her. That's fine. The pace that day was also very fast early, and she sat in 7th of 7, 8 lengths off that 21-3 early opening quarter, and then was able to close. They didn't go fast late. They ended 135 after going 110 to 6 furlongs, so 25 seconds there to close. That would be my major concern. Again, I would rather use like the 13 Wrigleyville if I'm going for price hunting, but I wouldn't talk you off the 7 either if you want to play those angles.
Yeah, trainer Vladimir Serin is 6 for 18 in turf sprints with the $3 plus ROI. Let's talk real quick about Wrigleyville and move on. That race at Saratoga, she got placed 3rd through disqualification after crossing 4th. The winner kind of came, but she got squirrely in the stretch. Vienna Rouge went left with the right-handed stick, so the jockey, I think it was John Velasquez, went to the left-handed whip, and she did the exact opposite move, just went straight out to the right and completely caught off Wrigleyville. I don't know if Wrigleyville was going to beat Mixologist, who ended up being kissed into the winner's circle, but she would have been right there with her. She was moving. I thought that was a nice effort. Cutting back to 6.5 and shipping to California, yeah, it could work. I've seen Jack Sisterson do more with less before.
Well, it's Sisterson, so like you're not as worried about the ship, right? He does this stuff all the time with like, oh, I'm going to take a horse to Kentucky Downs, then we're going to go to Ellis, and then we're going to show up at Gulfstream, and then we'll go to Saratoga. Like you never really know where he is going. The cutback is a question mark, but the fact that you get Rispoli up, I think is awfully interesting. Rispoli hasn't ridden for Sisterson in the last 5 years. Clearly took the call here, and you've had consistently good jockeys on this horse, right? Like you had Jose Ortiz 2 back. You had Gaffleon last time. I do think that last race was pretty good, especially considering they flew home after going very slow early. And so it's one of those where if you're closing late into a slow pace, I'm going to give you a little bit more of a nudge. But Wrigleyville has to stay in touch with the field early to be competitive in this race. That's my big concern, because I don't think you're going to see Dreamfire and Golden Canary come back to the field. Troopy probably not going to come back to the field. You're going to have to run them down at 6.5, which may not be Wrigleyville's game.
It's also worth noting Rispoli was named on 2 horses. Wrigleyville was in the also eligibles and draws in because one of the horses he was named on, Andiamo Ragazza, the 2, scratched out of it. If both horses made the field, his priority was on the Sisterson horse, not the 2. So just something to keep in mind if you were thinking about Wrigleyville, another little feather in the cap there. Second leg of the California Crown All Stakes, pick 5 on Saturday, September 28th. We're going to skip race 6. That's not part of it. We're going to race 7. This is the John Henry Turf Championship, a grade 2 event. 11 older males routing a 1.25 miles. They get to start kind of at the bottom of the downhill turf course, make the big looping turn, go across the dirt, and then they do the full mile there. So where'd you go on top in this race?
Man, I'm just riding my boy Hector Barrios here. Give me the 5-horse master. I'm sorry, the 5-horse Dicey Mochara on top. Barrios up the first time last time, going 1 mile and 3/8. Ends up running a good second, set the pace, got caught by Gold Phoenix late. I think the 1 mile and 3/8 was the difference there, or a big difference there. I think the 1 mile and 1/8 a little better for Dicey Mochara, who projects like for a 1 mile and 1/8 race. There's not a ton of speed in here. You'd expect that Big Blue Line is going to be the early pace, but has never really made the lead, yet clearly has the fastest early pace figure. Maybe it's There Goes Harvard, but again, a horse that's never really made the lead. I think you're going to see a pretty aggressive Hector Barrios here with Dicey Mochara, who's consistently forwardly placed or on the front. And I think that bodes very well for this field because it is, like I said, that shorter distance here. going the 1.25 miles, that I think that you're going to see a spot where pace can hold a little bit better than that 1 3/8, especially when you're getting chased down by a horse like Gold Phoenix, who is in this race as well. But give me the 5-horse Dicey Mochara going this 1.25 miles. I think it's has a very legit chance to go gate to wire.
He's got the early speed. Big Blue Line's cross-centered in the ACAC Stakes at Churchill Downs, which is a mile race on the dirt, and that's what he's exiting as a mile dirt race win at Saratoga. I would expect he actually goes to that instead. I think that William Walden, the trainer, kind of went, "Oh, hey, look, there's a lot of money. There's $750,000," and then they entered both. And Luan Machado was named on Big Blue Line, but I feel like that's just. I think Machado's going to end up riding him at Churchill Downs. So I would scratch off Big. I considered him a scratch in this spot. Cabo Spirit might be some of the other speed. He isn't a horse that's had the lead before, but he's on the rail. He's usually forwardly placed in his better efforts there. 7 Wonders, maybe he's led going a 1.25 miles, 1 3/8 before, but you're right. There's a chance that, especially off of the Del Mar handicap, that you see Dicey Mochara go get to wire. I didn't use him. I ended up just going with Phil D'Amato horses. He's got 4 in here. Fuck Rock Emperor, so I'm using the 3 that I think actually have a shot in hell of winning. And I'll watch Rock Emperor win this and beat me. The top pick for me is the number 3, Divine Propos, which means divine purpose in French. And I think Antonio Frisu's divine purpose is to take this horse to the victory. The horse has got 2 wins and a near miss, going a little bit shorter in the 3 starts since he came to America. Frisu is going to stay aboard, despite also being the winning jock last out on the 2 7 Wonders. He was the only races that Peter Urton could win at Del Mar all summer, or was it if Frisu was riding? So I think it's worth noting he's going to ride here for D'Amato. And he's already a winner over the course and distance when he made his North American debut. It was a 1.25 mile race. He brought in a lot of 1.25 mile efforts from France and even went 1 5/16 in one race there. And he likes to sit close up. He's not a need the lead type by any means, but his 2 strong efforts in California were when he was 4th within a couple of lengths early on, and Frisu was able to just pop right when he needed to. And the horse he beat last out at Del Mar in that 1 3/8 race, Awfully Naughty's a graded stakes winner on the turf. So it's not like he was just beating really bad horses. He was beating horses he needed to. The buyers need to improve, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, second pick for me here. I'm calling this horse Divine Props because of sports gambling. So we're going to go with Divine Props here. Look, this is a horse that's improved since he's gotten to the U.S. I think that matters. That you mentioned the race 3 back that was at Santa Anita going this distance, was able to win. Also carried 126 that day, carrying a career low weight today at 122, as well as the co-race low weight at 122. I think that makes this horse a little bit more interesting. Has tactical speed, doesn't need the lead. Like this is one of those that just makes a ton of sense. The fact you mentioned D'Amato kind of pulling a Chad Brown in this spot, has just a bunch of horses, including Gold Phoenix, including Balnikov, including Rock Emperor. We're going to talk about a couple of those here a little bit later, but still decides that Divine Props, Propos, whatever, Divine Props.
I know, Divine Props. He's forever Divine Props now.
Yeah, Divine Props deserves to be in this spot. So the 3 was my second pick here. I'm going to go with your boy, Rock Emperor is my third pick here. I know you don't like him. I like the price. Give me that 10-1 number here on Rock Emperor, second off the layoff. 1.25 miles, run it 14 times, at least has 1 win, 3 seconds and 3/3. Those were all against pretty good fields, though. So I don't hate having Rock Emperor in this spot. I think it sits well. Rispoli takes them out. I think that tells you something as well. So I'm including the 6 here who's going to be coming from off the pace. I went 3, 5, 6, 3 deep to get through here. Now you can talk about the other D'Amatos.
I just thank you for not making me talk about Rock Emperor. I can't stand the horse. Second choice for me, it's the number 9 Gold Phoenix. He's going to be your favorite here. This is interesting. So the last 2 years, Gold Phoenix won the Del Mar handicap, came into this race as the favorite, and ran like shit. Mm-hmm. And this year, he won the Del Mar handicap. Please don't run like shit. He ran impressively well in the Del Mar handicap to run down Dicey Mochara. It was a little bit longer, 1 3/8, right? So an extra furlong there, and he needed every bit of that extra furlong. But it's interesting, too, that despite having Flavian Prat aboard several times, JJ Hernandez several times, he seems to do his best in his career when Kyle Frey's aboard. And that includes winning the Del Mar handicap. I thought that he showed good speed in the Del Mar handicap to win that race because it was a short field. Dicey Mochara was the only speed. He still managed to catch him. He also won the grade 2 Charlie Whittingham earlier this year over the same course and distance with another kind of mid-pack, more forwardly placed, more engaged than he sometimes likes to run. So I put Gold Phoenix on here, but that trend that I mentioned of winning the Del Mar handicap, coming into this race and sucking as the favorite, he's not getting any younger. It could happen again this year.
Yeah, it could. I don't like him as much at the mile and a quarter distance as I do at the longer mile and 3/8, mile and a half type distances. Now he's won shorter. He's won at a mile before, so it's not like he's not capable. I knew he was going to be the favorite. That was a big part of me not putting him on the ticket here. There's enough to go against him here that I don't want him as the favorite in this spot.
And I think, especially now that we see the odds, and I don't think 7-2 you're getting. I think Gold Phoenix will be 5-2, 3-1.
Yep.
Dicey Mochara is the second choice at 4-1. So with the way that you like to structure your tickets in a field of 11, you would not have used 7-2 and 4-1 and then added a third horse. That's just not your style.
I would have tried to avoid it. Yes. I mean, honestly, looking at this, I like the 3 divine props the most at 6-1. Like if we're talking price combined with talent, Gold Phoenix is like, I don't want to talk poorly, but first off, I love Gold Phoenix. Hat tip to the Del Mar tournament last year where he hit me a $15,000 double, I think it was. So love me some Gold Phoenix. I just, at the price and the situation and the setup and the distance, like, there's just enough for me to not want to play the horse at 7-2. And he could easily win. Don't get me wrong. Like Gold Phoenix could easily win this race. It's just I honestly thought the morning line was going to be 5-2. And I think he goes off closer at the 5-2, 2-1 type range, just because he is. I don't think you can argue he is the most accomplished horse in this field, right? So I get it why Gold Phoenix is going to get bet, just not for me today. I want a little better price or a little better situation, one of the two. I don't think I'm getting either.
It is worth noting, too, you bring up the odds thing. Jeff Siegel, who took over the Del Mar morning line duties for this past meet, and people didn't often agree with his morning lines, and he often was off of the final odds. He's also doing Santa Anita. So if you look at this and go, why is Gold Phoenix 7-2? The history tells us that it's probably going to go way down. So that's Gold Phoenix. The other one I'm going to use Balnikov, number 11 horse. Listen, he rallied to me.
You used to make fun of me when I use this horse.
Well, there are two reasons why. Number one, it's Flavien Prat riding, right? I got to use him. But the same reason I liked Gold Phoenix is that he rallied to pass Dicey Mochara right to where Balnikov was just ahead behind Dicey Mochara for second. He's exiting back-to-back career best buyer speed figures. So at the end of his 5-year-old career, he's somehow in the best form of his career. He's third off the layoff. He's getting Pratt. And something interesting to pay attention to, if he wins this race, he is in line to win the Grand 3 Turf bonus, which is $2.5 million. $2.5 million if he wins this race and the Pegasus World Cup Turf at Gulfstream Park. So that's probably not going to happen, but it's something exciting. Like if he wins this race, he can go in there and they're just playing with house money at that point in the Pegasus.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that's true. You're nothing you said was wrong. I'm not sure that makes a difference. I think he would be just as dialed up as he would have been without it. But hey, I guess that's an angle.
The horse, you're telling me the horse doesn't know there's $2.5 million on the line for him?
No, the horse does not know that. The trainers and the owners do, so maybe they're trying to tune him up a little bit better. But I that's not going to be something I'm trying to factor into a handicap here, especially against this field. Hate the post, hate the price, love the connections. That was pretty much the reason I'm not going to use it.
Fair enough. But he absolutely is pace dependent too. He needs like 3 horses to all. He needs. There goes Harvard to go with. Who else was it? With Masterpiece, with Cabo Spirit, with Dicey Mochara, and they all just collapse pace-wise in the stretch, and he just, gets that magical Pratt trip where he goes by everybody. I think it's funny that Rob brought up that if Masterpiece wins, he's done. Like, he's just done. I would agree with that one.
That if we're knocking morning lines, Masterpiece at 9-2, what are we doing? But that horse is going to go off at 8-1, 10-1, right?
Yeah, it's really hard to make a case for him off of. He's the one start at Santa Anita before didn't go well. He's 1 for 5 of the distances, 2 Del Mar starts. Like Rick Dutrow, when he came in this time last year, he was like the hottest thing in horse racing. 1 year later, it's like nobody wants to touch a Dutrow horse anymore. White Barrio got taken away. He got White Abario to win the Whitney and win the Breeders' Cup Classic. And then they said, no, we don't want you anymore.
We're good. Never mind.
Well, that's that race. Let's move on to the third leg of the California Crown All Stakes Pick 5. Race 8, it's going to be the Eddie D Stakes, one of my favorites. This is going to be presented by my friends at FanDuel, and it's 11 males 3 and up, sprinting 6.5 furlongs down the hillside turf course. This is the deepest I went. I went 4 deep in this leg. Who is your top pick?
I went 3 deep here. Give me First Piece, the 2 horse on top here. Mike Smith retains the ride from Mark Glatt. I love how this horse has kind of worked through their career. You've consistently seen this 4-year-old get better as the season's gone along. The one caveat to that would be the last race where, look, was just a tough trip. I wanted to be forwardly placed, was in the 9 out of 10 post going a mile at Del Mar, went toward the front, was 3 wide around the first turn, and then just kind of faded back after having to steady a little bit top of the stretch. If you just scratch that race off, and I think you can realistically do so, this horse is just loves running good. And I like the downhill efforts as well. If you look through the 6 or the 5 of the downhill efforts, you've got 2 wins in 2 seconds, or 2 wins in 3 seconds, I'm sorry, in those 5 efforts. So we know absolutely loves this course. I want to be forwardly placed on this course. First Piece offers that forwardly placed ability here for me. I think First Piece has a big shot here. Surprised again that Big Invasion's the favorite. I did not use this horse. Had I known it was 3-1, I definitely would not have used this horse. But surprised that Big Invasion the favorite here. I'll take the 2 First Piece on top.
So First Piece I have in second, and you touched on exactly why. 5 starts, 2 wins, 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds came by a nose, a half length, and a half length. So he's just a tiny bit of racing luck away from being 5 for 5. I disagree with your take on Big Invasion. I made him the top pick. He's coming in with a lot of back class. He missed winning the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, going 5 furlongs here by a neck. We talked about that at the top of the show. He comes in off of a couple of good efforts in the Naira circuit, including winning the Harvey Pack Stakes with Dylan Davis aboard last time out. I don't see a Cogburn in here, and that's usually his biggest nemesis is facing. When he faces Cogburn, he's just completely off the board. It's also maybe because Rosario is aboard, but he also maybe just a little bit, maybe. But I think getting Pratt aboard is a huge key for him. Clement sends him out here with eyes on going to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint in a little over a month, which, by the way, we're like 5 weeks away from Breeders' Cup. That's insane.
Wild.
So I'm going to go with Big Invasion on top. But again, I understand if you don't want to use him, the price is going to be low. Breaking from post 11, he does have this shortest route to that, like through the dog leg turn. He just kind of has to run straight a little bit because they turn right and then they turn left. So, but he's not a speed horse. So we'll see what kind of trip Flavien Prat's able to work out.
I think it's a huge benefit to have Pratt. If Rosario was riding, I would just laugh at you. I don't know if you'd use this horse.
I wouldn't use it if Rosario was aboard. It was Pratt hopping aboard. I was like, yes.
Unique downhill configuration plus Rosario. I mean, the Big Invasion would be 20 lengths back around the far turn if that was the case. The price gets me. Like the last 2 races, okay, but like it's kind of worrisome that we had to drop from like graded stakes to $80,000 optional claimer to get this horse back on track. And then back on track is one more race after that where, yes, he wins against Arshot and Superquest. Those aren't as good as the horses in here. Arshot and Superquest aren't. Maybe that's not fair to them. Maybe they're on par with the horses that are in here, but they're not like it's a Cogburn. It wasn't a field that he really did anything special to beat. So I'm willing to fade the favorite here. Give me the 1 horse. This is my other must-use horse, Johnny Podrace. Look, it's a weird one. Don't love the price at 7-2. Kind of wish we was getting a better price, especially since last time out. Lost to Notorious at 12-1. Had him that day. Was kind of bummed didn't get home. This is a horse that loves to close the 5.5 distance. 5 distance at Del Mar. You go back to the 6.5 down the hill. Again, another horse that's done very good at this configuration. Has 2 wins over this course, a second as well, and a fourth. And the fourth was in a Grade 3 Daytona. So we know this horse likes this specific track. Third off the layoff here should be more than enough to have this horse in top form as a 7-year-old as well. This is one of those where I'm not like ecstatic about using the 1, but I can't leave the 1 off either because I think the 1 has a very big shot at being able to close and run down the leaders late here.
So you took the 1, I took the 11, kind of looking for similar trips, and you might be able to argue that the 11 is. His highs are higher, but his lows are a lot lower. The 1's very consistent. And if you go back to March 1st of this year, forget every race before that, and just look from March 1st forward. Librado Baracchio's been able to keep him in very strong form. I wish Gio Franco had recovered in time that he could come aboard to possibly ride. I love Gio a lot as a rider, but Gio was aboard for 3 straight victories, 2 of them coming down the hill, so he knows how to handle the horse. The horse knows the course, right? 11 starts, I think might be more than anybody else in this field. 11 times down the hillside turf. It's got to be the highest. Yeah. So he knows the course better than any other horse in this race. I didn't use, but if this horse wins, I'm not going to be shocked, just pissed off because I didn't have him on my ticket.
Yeah, it's one of those where I think you're either for or against. Like, especially at 7-2, I was hoping for a little better price, just because this isn't the most, with the back class of the 11 big invasion. You compare that to the back class of the 1, and you're like, well, there's a little bit to be desired. Also, a 7-year-old who feels like running the best races of his life as well, which is always interesting when you see these older horses kind of figure out things later in life. But like you mentioned, like look, I always pronounce his name wrong. Baracchio.
Yep.
Baracchio. There it is. But Baracchio has done a great job with this horse. Like, just what you've seen from this horse from late 2023 all the way through here was actually could have been claimed for $50,000 midway through or in March of this year. Able to win that race and then rip off 3 straight. Has run well in the graded stakes that he's running. That to me is the big indicator here. The price is what I wish we got a little bit better, but what can you do? I did go 3 deep here. I'm going to use the Diamato with Fresu here as well. But give me the 5 King of Gosford. And this is a interesting horse to me because we are trying something that we were very good at when we were 2 years old, well, early in the 3-year-old season, I should say, with 2 wins down the hill and $100,000 stakes races. But with show tactical speed, won both of those. They decided to stretch this horse out in July and August, and now we are cutting back to that sprint distance. I think we're just much, much, much better at sprinting here than we are going long. If you go back to the European races, all 6 of those European races were 7 furlongs or less. I think this is what this horse wants to do. I think it's realistic to think this horse can take a huge step forward, getting back to turf sprinting, getting back to going down the hill after going the mile and a 16th. So I'll take a little bit of a shot here with King of Gosford at 15-1.
I use the horse as well, and Rob's talking about the sire Zouster, an Australian sire, really solid turf sprinter. And yeah, I like it with you as well. All the reasons you mentioned. I thought that I wanted nothing to do with him in the Oceanside Stakes when he was the favorite, and it wasn't his fault that he had a terrible effort. It was a rough trip for him. To bounce back into La Jolla and get second when not setting the pace, when he likes to be forwardly placed in sprint races, I thought it was impressive. And stay hot. Nobody beats that horse in California on the turf. So Zoostar. Sorry. Thank you, Rob. Zoostar. Zouster.
I like Zouster.
I like Zouster too. I've been working with you too long. Zouster. We'll call him that.
Just phonetically pronounce all the names and just deal with it later.
Last horse for me, just one post to the outside, the number 6 Air Force Red. JJ Hernandez is going to be riding for Leonard Powell. So we're getting 15-1 on King of Gosford, which is really awesome. Getting 10-1 on Air Force Red, which I really like. And this is a horse who's 4 for 7 over the downhill turf course. He's the second most experienced. He has more wins than any other horse in this field going over this course. 5 of his 6 wins came going gate to wire, so he is one that likes to be forwardly placed. And he's 4 for 7 with JJ riding. This was the last horse on my ticket. So if you're not in love with Air Force Red, I mean, I could understand that, but he does his best running, 6 career wins in 20 starts. He's 2 for 13 when he's not running down the hill at Santa Anita. He's 4 for 7 when he's down the hill. So I think this is another horse for course angle that if he pops a big effort here, it wouldn't shock me.
I don't hate Air Force Red. Clearly, like the question is, what trip are we going to get? Can we be in the lead when we are sprinting? We've seen him in a graded stakes make the lead going down the hill before. The 2 races he didn't make the lead, he didn't win. His best races have come on the lead when going 2 turns. So where Air Force Red is positioned, I think, going to make a big difference. But you have JJ Hernandez up, who's aboard for both the first and second place finishes down the hill. So he knows what he's trying to do with them. So like the price on Air Force Red. I do want to mention Boss Sully as well. Rags brought this one up. I considered Boss Sully for a little bit here. This is another interesting horse who, second off the layoff as a 4-year-old, the placement of this horse is wildly aggressive. And that kind of piqued my interest with Brian Corner training. He's someone who is consistently around that 15% no matter what you look at. And this is one of those where you look and you're like, well, I could see where this horse runs a really big effort. I mean, it had never run higher than an 80 career buyer, comes back off the layoff, faces open company for the first time, runs an 89 buyer and wins the race. Now, this is where you decide to go second off the layoff. There are worse shots you can take than 20-1 here on Boss Sully.
Yeah, you and I had the same idea where we both looked at them and this is interesting. And he's a Calbred. His 2 Calbred stakes tries as a 3-year-old were horrible. And yet, you mentioned it. First off the long at 10-month layoff, and he pops a big effort going 5 furlongs. It wouldn't shock you. Again, just would piss us off if he beats us.
Not just that. First off the layoff, they decide to go to open company too.
Yeah.
Like they didn't need to go to open company there. They could have gone to N2X State Bred. Instead, you end up in open company, and all of a sudden you run your best career race, and then you jump into here. Like there's just some signs that the trainer is telling you this is not the same horse that you saw last year.
And Brad Coroner, most famously the trainer of the Chosen Run, another amazing Calbred. Penultimate leg of the late pick. See there, I did it. All stakes pick 5 on Saturday, September 28th. Race 9, this is the main event, the Grade 1 California Crown itself, $1 million on the line on mile and an eighth. Breeders' Cup winning urine for the Classic. And of course, Bob Baffert has not 1, not 2, but 3 entries in here. Who'd you put on top?
I thought this was a really tough race. I ended up going, I'm interested to say, now I get to see the morning lines. I think it's very interesting how that's set up. Give me the 2-horse, Sub Sansador on top here. So I'm going to go with the Mandela trained Smith ridden non-Baffert horse here on top. I thought the last race was really good at Monmouth. And a lot of why I'm using this horse is because of that last race. It feels like there's more in the tank here for this horse. When it chipped over, it went to the Saddler barn, ran okay in first effort, got Pratt aboard, came back in the Santa Anita handicap, went to the lead. I thought ran a very good second place finish. I love the angle that we saw from this horse being able to move from off the pace last time out. To me, that's a big time difference in what we saw from this horse prior to that. Wasn't able to pass horses in the U.S. Now runs a career best buyer and able to pass horses first off a long layoff later in the 5-year-old season. Mandela, great second off the layoff here. Great in graded stakes. How often do you see a trainer with a 27% win percentage in graded stakes and a $2.33 positive ROI? I mean, that is wild in graded stakes. Like the fact that Smith stays aboard. I think there is enough pace for Sub Sandor to be able to sit right behind it. Sanador, to be able to sit right off the pace. I think that he's able to make one big run and have a shot to run them down before Senor Buscador can really get going and run everybody down. So give me the 2 Sub Sanador on top, Magic.
I didn't use him. He is an intriguing one. So he came to the U.S. with Argentinian owners. And after he almost won the big cap at 22-1 in March, Wathman Racing tried very hard to buy him. It took them a while, from what I understand, but they were able to buy him privately. Wathman Racing is a group that, I shouldn't say a group, it's the stable for the Emir of Qatar. So there's a ton of money behind it. And he's been buying up horses that are in training with experience. Cagliostro, he bought. I think, did he buy Tumbarumba too? There were a couple of horses I saw at Churchill that ran 1-2. They were both Wathman Racing. He bought horses that went to Royal Ascot and won, like just out of no, like this guy blew up all of a sudden in 2024, buying up horses that are in training that you can be confident will be, actually turn out to be something and get more on your money, which I found to be a very interesting way of going about things, and got rewarded with that Phillip Island Stakes. Anytime, by the way, speaking about that, anytime Mandela goes to Monmouth Park, just single. Just bet him. Go Rocket Ride showed us that last year.
Yeah, Go Rocket Ride is the ultimate case. Like, he's 2 for 2 in the Haskell too, isn't he? Mandela, or is it 3 for 3? It's one of the two. He's
2 for 2 in the Haskell. Yeah,
he's undefeated in the Haskell. I know that.
Yeah, that's a nice race. 2 for 2 in $1 million race. That's pretty good. I used 2 Bafferts. I ended up putting Booth on top. He runs second off of a really long layoff, and this is a horse who's missed more planned starts in 2024 than he's actually made, which is impressive. But the fact that he is the long layoff, he's gone for 5 months. Yeah, 5 months he's gone away from. And after that win, which he didn't just destroy them, he wasn't just hands and heels in that race. He had to try to beat Indispensable. Comes back 4 weeks later. Baffert never does that kind of a quick turnaround with the horse unless he thinks the horse is in fine form. You can look back last year as a 2-year-old. He won the American Pharoah, came back 4 weeks later and was a good second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I think that he has the most upside of anyone in this field because he's still a lightly raced 3-year-old. He's never missed the exacta with 5 wins in 2 seconds. Things are looking up for him. He's better at the distance, which is why I picked him over National Treasure, the other horse I had in here. I think all the things are lining up for Muth. I really expect him to have a big effort. The one thing that makes me slightly nervous is I thought he would err in the shared belief. I think a lot of people did, and he didn't. I mean, he was a 20-cent favorite. He won by 2 lengths, but it wasn't just like he took off and just, how he won the American Pharaoh, for example.
Yeah, I agree with you. Muth is my other play here. I went too deep, 2-5. Look, I don't like National Treasure. I don't like Newgate. So I'm not using those other 2 Baffords, especially National Treasure at the price. If it was a mile, maybe it's different. I've long talked on this program how much better National Treasure is when he gets an easy lead. I don't think that that's the life that National Treasure is going to live in this spot. So I am willing to take a shot against National Treasure, who's your favorite in this spot. Newgate never been a horse for me. Not going to be a horse for me today. It was between Muth and Senor Buscador, honestly. Those were the 2 that I went back and forth as the second horse on the ticket. I decided to go with Muth here, and it was for the reason that you said. It's the upside. If one of these horses wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, which one is it? It's Muth, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not anybody else in this. Maybe Sub-Sanador if all of a sudden that horse just takes a couple steps forward. But Muth is the one that has the opportunity to really jump forward here versus everybody else. So I'm willing to take a shot second off the bench. Like you said, this isn't a Baffert-esque move, especially when you have National Treasure and you have Newgate in this spot. You don't need to rush Muth into it. And yet here you are essentially saying, I'm going to run Muth 3 times in 2 months, right? I'm going to run him in the shared belief. I'm going to come back here, and then I'm going to run him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That is a awfully bold statement for a horse who has missed a lot of starts coming up through his career. And so because of that, you got to think that Baffert thinks this horse is sitting on a big-time progression. And I'm going to trust the back belief in the talent around this horse and that Baffert's ability to progress a horse and say that Muth is the right Baffert in this spot. So I'm just going to go 2-5 to get through here.
Trust the white-haired winker is what we're saying. At least with Muth. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. National Treasure is the one I used. If you ignore it, I'm going to forgive him for the Whitney because 2 reasons. One, muddy track. He is 0 for 3. Yeah. 0 for 3 with horrible efforts on wet tracks. But then also, he didn't get to the lead. When this horse has had the lead off the turn, he has 1 loss. That's it. He has 1 second place finish. It was 1 loss. But other than that, this horse is always solid as soon as he's got the lead. That lone defeat was in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile where he had the lead and banged with Cody's Wish. And Cody's Wish got put in after a long and lengthy inquiry because the stewards didn't want to see the entire track. They didn't want the track to burn to the ground before the Classic had been run. That's for sure. But Pratt stays aboard. I love that. I also agree with Rags that I think he's ultimately better at a mile. I think that out of this race, assuming let's say they finish 1-2, Muth wins National Treasure second, for example, divert their paths. Send 1 to the Classic. That's Muth. Send 1 to the Dirt Mile. That's National. He is not a 1.25 mile horse. There's nothing about how National Treasure has run that makes you go, that's a good 1.25 mile horse right there. No, that's not him.
No, it's not. The one race you can point to is the Pegasus World Cup Invitational, right? If you want to get behind National Treasure in this spot, I agree with you. You cross the line through the Whitney. It was a very, very sloppy track. Oh, by the way, they also decided to seal it right before that race, and
you were so mad about that.
Completely changed the track right before the biggest race. Why not? And Arthur's Ride, that track carried every horse home on the lead the rest of the day. Shocker! Way to go, Saratoga. Anyway, so yes, you can completely draw a line through the Whitney there. The Pegasus World Cup is the one you're going to point to if you like National Treasure in this spot. If he runs back to that race and beats me, good on you, National Treasure. Congratulations. It's another favorite where just like, I don't believe this horse should be the favorite. I think Moose should be the favorite, to be honest. Yes. And so, I think Substansador has a better shot of upside than the National Treasure does. So to me, that this is an easy one to lay off the ticket here. And if National Treasure wins, I lose. Totally fine with that. And
I did have Substanador third. So I kind of went back and forth and just thought, if Pratt beats me, what's the rule? Don't leave Pratt off your ticket, right?
If you're going to leave him off as a favorite.
That's true. You can do that. Buscador, God, it just feels like he's probably going to come running really late and get like third or second. Depends on how badly, if National Treasure fades. How much does he fade? Does Buscador get second? But I want him to win. My heart wants him to win. I don't think he wins.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, the biggest knock for me doesn't like Santa Anita. 0 for 3 over the course, right? And we've seen horses love Del Mar, hate Santa Anita, and vice versa. And this is a horse that won the San Diego handicap at Del Mar over Slowdown Andy to kind of start his propulsion into the big time talk. We saw him win the Saudi Cup, phenomenal race there. Can't believe this horse has earned $12 million. Like, just wild to me. But it's all because of that Saudi Cup, right?
Right.
I would rather play Buscador than like National Treasure. I'd rather play Buscador than Newgate. To me, like, he's the other one that I think is at least a little bit interesting, but he's going to need them to back up if he's going to win this race. I think if this was a 1.25 miles, I'd like Buscador more. I think the 1.1 miles is probably not quite long enough for him to be able to run down this field.
I agree. And I 1.25 miles, I absolutely would have Substandador instead of National Treasure on the ticket in here. Newgate, no interest, right? That's the third Baffert. I have zero interest in him.
Yeah, I mean, that means he's probably going to win. But yes, I agree. Newgate would need to run a career best and have other horses run below their career best for him to be able to win. Also, first off the layoff, haven't seen him since Maiden. Like, there's a lot of reasons in my mind to not use Newgate here in this spot, especially at 6-1.
He's here because where the hell else would he go, right?
That's
There's
kind of
nothing
it.
else to do in California.
Yeah, I like it. To cash in the third place paycheck is not a bad thing for Newgate, and that's most likely what he's going to try and run into. Probably the most consistent of all the horses, right? I mean, yes, Muth's been pretty consistent.
Muth, yeah.
Yeah.
Fifth and final leg of the All Stakes Pick 5, Saturday, September 28th, race 10 is the City of Hope Mile for 9 males, 3 and up, because Trickery is here. Of course, going a mile, and it's a Breeders' Cup winner in for the Turf Mile. Where'd you go on top?
Wow, 4 to 5. All right, I guess this is where we decided to get aggressive.
That might be the closest Jeff Siegel's ever been to getting the odds correct for a big favorite.
I mean, I don't think he's wrong. I'm just surprised that we're sitting at 4 to 5 here after we had that opportunity in other spots and didn't do it. Yeah, Johannes' top pick here for me. The 3 horse has been absolutely phenomenal the last couple races. I don't know how you can really argue against that. The last 2, the Shoemaker and the Eddie Reed, both wonderful efforts. We're going a mile today. 2 ago, the Shoemaker mile was phenomenal. The race before that, mile over this course, the American, was phenomenal as well. Has the ability to be close to the pack if need be, but also can close if that's what it's going to take. One knock, you could say, hasn't faced the toughest competition. Like, faced Dicey Mochar and Balnikov playing their game last time out in the Eddie Reed and beat him. And that wasn't necessarily his game. I think that speaks volumes about where this 4-year-old is. So Johannes on top for me. Did go 3 deep here, though. What about you?
I went 2 deep, same top pick for me. I almost singled. And if you didn't want to play, because it's $1 base, if you didn't want to play it for 96, which is mine, Mike's like a couple bucks over 100. To me, I think you could single Johannes in here and feel pretty confident about it. The only time that he's lost on turf, he went to the Grade 2 American Turf last year and was a really good 5th. He got steadied at one point in the trip, and he still was a really good 5th behind Webslinger, Farbridge, Major Dude, like lots of really good horses on Derby weekend. Like, the best 3-year-old turf horses in the country were there for the Grade 2 American Turf on Derby weekend. I really don't see how he loses this, because he's beaten several of the horses that he's facing for the 8 rivals in here. He's beaten them before. The buyers keep going up. He won the Shoemaker mile 2 starts back, looking really impressive. If he gets beat, I think it's a new shooter. And the only real new shooter in here is the number 6, Trickery. And I have not been right about Trickery, so this could be a bad sign. But I've been right about Trickery this year. But he's got tactical speed to be on the pace. He can press. He can stalk. You ask him to do those different things, he can do it. He's beaten up on he's beaten several very, very talented 3-year-old horses. He managed to track down White Palomino to win the Belmont Derby 2 back. And then after he dominated the Secretariat at Colonial last out, Graham Motion said, we're plotting a path to the Breeders' Cup Mile. Like, out of that race, he said, I think this is a Breeders' Cup Mile horse. So I like all those things. Johnny Velasquez aboard for the 3rd straight start, won the last 2. He's got the biggest thing that he has going for him. He's a 3-year-old facing older horses. A 3-year-old hasn't won this race since 2013. So there is a big trend that he is trying to buck, but I think he's got the talent to do it.
I'm gonna let Trickery beat me. If I've been wrong about this horse too. I'm still pissed that this horse won on Derby Day. But that's neither here nor there. I went with DeJour, second pick here. DeJour has had the races to to win. Like he's got some of the back class to do it. I like the draw with the one. Last time this horse went a mile was last time out. I didn't think that he had that good of an opportunity to actually be able to win and close. He was kind of stuck on the inside, didn't shake loose until late, ends up missing by 3/4 of a length that day. You go back to the Shoemaker Mile where he lost to Johannes there, and that was another one where like the trip I didn't think was very good. I kind of wish that De Jour drew a little further outside. The one post or two posts can be tough in some of these races where you have a dead closer who needs to shake free. Gonna save ground around the turn here, but to me is the most accomplished miler. Clearly his best distance here should be coming from off it. Hernandez knows this horse well. You get third off a layoff. I think it's all systems go for De Jour, so happy to put that one on there. And then I'm going to use the 8 horse as well. Almendares, 10-1 on this one. Love the price. This is a horse that took a big time step forward last time out in the Del Mar Mile. Ended up just missing to Conclude. That was a race where Conclude ends up taking the field gate to wire. Another race where they didn't exactly go fast, especially for Del Mar. 23-2, 47 slow for a mile over that turf course. And I loved what Almendares was able to do from coming from off the pace. Was 7th early, by far the furthest back horse that ended up in the top 4 here, and was able to consistently make up ground late. Ended up only missing by a half length to conclude that day. A lot more speed signed on today in the mile. And so I do think that you have a better chance of being able to come from off it than did that day. And hey, you get your boy Pratt aboard. So why not take Pratt at 10-1 for Diamato here and a horse that's going to become rolling late. So I ended up going 1-3-8 to get through this closing late.
This is going to be a fun race, unless you're Dr. Tang. City of Hope, the wonderful medical facility there next to Santa Anita. They don't like Dr. Tang. You know what? If they don't like Dr. Tang, I guess I don't like Dr. Tang either.
I don't know. I hear they're the best cancer facility in California, right? City of Hope?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where all the top cancer doctors in Los Angeles work at.
If not the entire country, if not the world. But I am a little worried about Almendares to kind of bring that back. Yeah. This is the one race I didn't use Pratt, and I kept looking at the horse going, can I make a case for it? Can I make a case for it? Can I make a case for it? I couldn't make a case for it. I hope he doesn't beat me. That's going to suck a lot.
I'm surprised you didn't make a case for it. It's a D'Amato horse on the turf going a mile with a horse that clearly wants this distance that seems like it's getting better late in the 4-year-old season. It's a lot of different angles that I love to target.
I was between him and Trickery, and I went with Trickery with Motion. Oh boy, we'll see how this goes. Let's see. Rex says Almendares was entered into a much lower level race prior to last race, and D'Amato went to the higher class race, and he ran well. Yeah, that's true. He could have. He's a very good horse. I'm not going to knock it for having him. That was a race. I remember the Del Mar Mile. I just said all the D'Amatos. I'm going to take all the D'Amatos, and Conclude came across, but double the price. Almendares was half a length or just a head behind him.
Yeah, I think Conclude's interesting here as well, because it's similar to last time where Conclude was able to clear from the outside and then slow them down. If Conclude clears from the outside, they are going to be slowed down again, right? I mean, just logically, because he clears, crosses, and pulls back. And so we'll see if Barrios can get the same trip. I wouldn't be shocked if he's got a chance to do so.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thanks for joining us to talk about the All Stakes Pick 5 at Santa Anita, September 28th. It's races 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Reminder, it's $1 minimum, 15% takeout, and the entire pool will get paid out at the end of the day. Put our tickets down below if you're listening on podcast. We'll read them out for you now. I'm going to go 6-11 with 3-9-11 with 2-5-6-11 with 3-5 with 3-6 for $96. Mr. Somich.
I'm going to spend a little bit more than we usually do here. Going to go with 108. Give me the 1-6 with the 3-5-6 with the 1-2-5 with 2-5 with 1-3-8. So $108 for a buck. Again, 15% takeout, $1 minimum on this all stakes pick 5 sequence from Santa Anita on Saturday. Got a question for you, Magic.
Yes.
I had some My Racehorse money burning a hole in my pocket. And I don't know if you know my racehorse strategy. I never take any money out of there. So I just started with some, and whatever's left, I end up buying in. I bought into a horse that's running today. The 4 horse in the 4th race at Churchill Downs. Love the name Riddler. It's a practical joke horse out of a proud Indian, or out of an Indian Charlie mare, trained by Steve Askinson, Brian Hernandez Jr. riding first race.
Interesting. Brian, interesting.
Are we
Okay.
looking at a 4th-round draft pick? Is that what I'm thinking here?
No.
No, because the practical joke part. Is that why you're going to shun me?
No, not even that. I'm looking at, there just isn't much in terms of the family. I'm looking at the dam side right now. The full sibling, won her debut impressively at Saratoga as a 2-year-old, third in the spin-away, almost last in the Alcibiades, and never raced again. No, but it's fun. You know what? Whose horse I will see? I'm going to get to see Pedlo's horse run tomorrow night. I'll be live on FanDuel 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific. So race 4 at Remington Park, Rainbow Smiles is going to be running. Pedlo, give me some tips. Should I pick the horse to win? I know Austin Gustafson's the trainer. Let me know. Put it in the chat.
Doc wanting a little Survivor talk. New season started on CBS about 2 weeks ago. I haven't caught up yet, Doc. So no Survivor talk.
I thought it was about your Survivor pool. My bad.
I'm messing with you.
Oh.
Yeah, we are still live in Circus Survivor. I don't know, Magic, have you followed
Awesome.
Circus Survivor this year?
Nope.
14,000 entries, $14.2 million to the last Survivor. Tyler Hoffman, Doc, and I have an entry. There are 642 people left after 3 weeks. So less than 5% of the pool left in Survivor or Circuit Survivor. So we're going back and forth of who we should end up playing. I have made my case for my pick. We'll see if we actually go with it or not. It's a tough week though, because a lot of people are going to pick San Francisco. I think they make logical sense taking on New England. But there's a couple other ones. Doc wants to take the Bears. Kind of want to smack them around for that because we're not taking the Bears. The Bears are playing the Rams, the beat up Rams. But I get it, and there's been sharp money on the Bears too to push them out to a 3-point favorite. I just can't sleep at night taking Eberflus and Caleb Williams against McVay and Stafford. That to me just seems a little silly.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. I like Dallas tonight. You probably because it have to be a Sunday game.
We have to save Dallas for. We actually saved ourselves last week because we took the Jets on a Thursday night. That was the only team in the top 5 that won. You have to save Dallas or Detroit for Thanksgiving Day because Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day are separate weeks in this. So there's 20 weeks instead of 18. So you now, if JD's right and Survivor doesn't last past week 13, then that won't matter specifically Christmas week. But yeah, I think you kind of have to save. You got to save the Cowboys, and the Cowboys, the Lions, and the Chiefs are the 3 teams that you want to save for those specific ones. The Bears are awful. The Bears also play Carolina next week. I would rather use the Bears against Carolina. And the other thing is the other logical game is San Francisco next week. San Francisco taking on Arizona at home. If you use San Francisco this week, you end up using the Bears most likely next week. I would much rather have the whole pool on the Bears, and we're sitting with San Francisco against Arizona than vice versa. So we'll see how it goes here.
Listen, in Caleb Williams' defense, yes, he dissed his own defense, but he's like a borderline starter on that defense right now. So I can understand his frustrations there. I will tell you folks, if you're listening, if you're not paying attention to Mike Somich's football picks, he had a huge score last week that we were talking about in the press room at FanDuel Studios. Your bet was the highest scoring game of Sunday, which also saved you because Monday Night Football blew you out of the water. But so you got lucky on that. But so on Sunday, the highest scoring game, you said it would be Panthers and Bears.
Panthers and Raiders.
Panthers and Raiders. Thank you. Panthers and Raiders. And not only did the red rifle come through, but he was like the red bazooka because it was 20-1 and 30-1, both of those. And you were talking about it on Twitter, so people could have easily tailed you on that.
Yeah, I cashed it 20-1 and 30-1, found it on 2 different sites. It was as high as 40-1 in some other places. So you were like, depending on what book you were at, you were able to cash big time. It was a very good week last week in the NFL for yours truly. Very good week. So that was fun. Be on tomorrow on Follow the Money, 1:30 Pacific, talking about kind of 4 or 5 best bets for the weekend. And then on Saturday from 4 to 7, doing 4 to 6 Pacific will be all the bets from the football slate on Sunday. And then 6 to 7 will be the contest show, which reveals the picks for Circa Millions as well as Circa Survivor, which we just talked about. And then 5 to 7 on Sunday Pacific, setting up the Sunday night game. We've crushed that game live the last 3 weeks. Been absolutely phenomenal live betting opportunities in that. Hopefully we get another one this week. And then we'll be talking about the future lines as well. Week 4 as those populate the board. So should be another fun NFL week. I love once we have a couple data points. Like you feel like you need to get those data points in you to be able to start really coming out with things. And Carolina is one of those sneaky teams. Like if you want to, I haven't looked at highest scoring game this week, but that Carolina Cincinnati game, another one that I would target. They had, and this is one of those stats that blew me away. Through 2 weeks, Carolina's offensive line was top 5 in pass block win rate, and their wide receivers were top 10 in separation and against man-to-man routes. So they were creating separation with their wide receivers. They were winning pass blocks, so the pocket was good, yet they had the 32nd ranked pass offense because of how bad Bryce Young had been. So you insert Andy Dalton, and all of a sudden they can score points. And the Bengals can't stop anybody. Washington didn't punt on Monday night, and the Bengals scored every single drive except for a missed field goal. So it kind of feels like you could see a couple more points again on Sunday with that Bengals and Carolina game. I think Carolina is a dead not over team, and I don't think the market has responded to it yet.
Well, there you go. Mike Somich's latest NFL picks. Follow him on Twitter at Somobomb18, number 1, number 8. Make sure you tune in when he is on VSiN. Remind us of your schedule real quick.
I'll be on tomorrow, 1:30 p.m. Pacific, and then 4 to 7 Saturday and 5 to 8 Sunday. Again, all that Pacific. And Magic, you going to be on a little FanDuel action this weekend?
I got Friday night, 5 to 8 Pacific, Saturday morning, 9 to 12:30, something like that. And then Monday, and then I'm off for a week and a half because I'm going to the boondocks of Eastern Tennessee for a bachelor party / wedding. So hopefully I survive and make it back, but I'm going to be out there with several of my close friends. I haven't seen my best friend in a couple of years, so it'd be really nice to get out there. He doesn't drink anymore, so I think that increases my chances of surviving the weekend by at least 2%. So that's good to know. Do you want to do a show next week without me, or do you want to wait till I get back?
I have texted a couple people to see if I can get some people on. So we will see what's going on, but we'll see if who we can get there. Can you bring back some moonshine? I've never had moonshine in my life.
I've made moonshine before. It was like prison moonshine.
Were you in prison?
That wasn't good. No, it's just somebody, actually my best friend didn't go to prison, but his next door neighbor came back from prison once and told him how to make prison shine.
All right, then.
Second worst hangover of my life. The worst was my own bachelor party, but second worst hangover of my life. It was what I would think drinking paint thinner would be like.
All right. That's good. The Super Bowl's in New Orleans. I hold a very special record. I had my bachelor party in New Orleans for the Super Bowl last time it was there. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe 2 times ago. It was the Ravens against the 49ers game. I hold a record for most times foods come up the wrong way. We'll put it that way. Inside that stadium, in different places inside a single game. We went way too hard the night before the Super Bowl. My buddy works for NFL Network. Got like all this behind the scenes stuff the morning of the Super Bowl. I probably threw up in 6 different NFL parties before the Super Bowl that day. It was hilarious and awesome. I didn't care. My buddy was getting a little embarrassed by the end of it.
He's not with me, which is what Aaron Halterman usually says. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend it with us on the Magic Mike Show. We'll be back next week with Mike Somich and somebody. Tune in to find out who. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.